High within the desolate, jagged peaks of the northern reaches, the ice palace stood amidst icy mountains covered in snow that shimmered like crushed diamonds under a pale wintry sun. Outside the thick, frost-laden walls, the wind howled in a relentless gale that defied anything living. However, the interior of the fortress remained a sanctuary of cold elegance. Inside the palace, wine poured into cups with a soft, rhythmic gurgling sound as a conversation unfolded between two of the most powerful women in the world. The air was filled with a faint, crisp scent of aged grapes and the underlying chill of ancient magic. Misha told the Ice Queen Talaris that she could have handled the situation alone and asked why she had intervened. Her voice carried a hint of pride, the sharp edge of a warrior who did not relish being rescued. She swirled the dark liquid in her glass, watching the light catch its deep crimson hues. Talaris replied that the event occurred within Ice Palace territory, so she could not hold back while the surrounding islands were nearly wiped out. The Queen of the North leaned back in her throne, her expression calm, but her eyes reflecting the absolute authority she held over these frozen lands. She was not just protecting a person, she was preserving the very geography of her reign. Ciri was pouring wine for her mother. Talaris mentioned that she had personally eliminated 3 members of the Ghost Legion. The young woman's movements were graceful and silent, her focus entirely on the task at hand despite listening intently to every word. Talaris leaned forward slightly, her gaze piercing, and asked Misha if that was not enough. For the Zippel family to lose 3 members of such an elite force was no small matter. It was a wound that would leave a permanent scar on the pride of the most powerful clan in the world. Misha then asked why, even after winning, she had announced they lost to Zippel. It seemed counterintuitive, a victory disguised as a defeat. Talaris smiled faintly and explained it was for political reasons while reaching for her ornate fan, its ivory ribs clicking softly. Closing her fan, she stated that if it were announced the Black Dragon intervened and killed the Spectre members, war would break out immediately between Runcandle and Zippel. The balance of power was a fragile thing, held together by threads of diplomacy and fear. She added that having big groups step in and declare a defeat was the quickest way to settle the situation. It was a tactical retreat in the public eye to ensure the greater peace remained intact. Misha slowly sipped her wine while hearing these words, the cold liquid sliding down her throat as she processed the complexity of the Queen's strategy. Talaris then laughed loudly and said Zippel's fallen prestige would recover slightly from that, preventing them from questioning minor responsibilities. It was a clever move. By giving them a hollow victory, she silenced potential complaints while they likely remained in internal chaos. The friction of receiving a victory they did not earn would surely cause cracks within their ranks. Misha also smiled, admiring her cunning. She remarked that it was rare to find someone who could fight as well as they could scheme. She was not the palace lord for nothing. The title was earned through blood and wit, not just inheritance. Slowly placing her glass on the table, she said there was nothing more to discuss and prepared to leave. The meeting reached its natural conclusion as she opened a portal that crackled with dark, swirling energy. The Ice Palace Lord told her to at least send some good liquor. A bit of indulgence was the least offered after such a stressful ordeal, and she reminded Misha that keeping neutrality in the matter cost them quite a bit. The Ice Palace had put its reputation on the line. Misha told her to get the liquor from Jean, playfully redirecting the burden of payment onto the young heir. Misha then looked at Ciri and assured her that Jean would be safe, telling her not to worry. She could see the hidden tension in the younger girl's frame. Ciri sat there like a statue, her expression unreadable, though her heart likely hammered against her ribs. Misha smiled and stepped into the portal, saying she would drink well and be on her way. With a final flourish, she vanished into the void. As she left, Ciri's anger flared. The silence that followed was heavy and suffocating. The wine glass in her hand shattered into pieces as she tightened her grip, the shards cutting her palm. Yet she did not flinch. Talaris awkwardly smiled and said she had not said much. She tried to wave off the tension with a light-hearted gesture, noting she had only asked if her son-in-law was safe. Ciri gritted her teeth in anger at the implication. Ciri then blushed as she told her mother several times that he was just a friend, her hand curling her hair. It was a nervous habit she could not hide, betraying the very feelings she tried so hard to deny. The scene shifted away from the frozen north back to the Kashmir mansion, where the air was warm and far less formal. Inside, Murakin was eating snacks happily while sitting on the sofa. The great black dragon, now in human form, seemed more interested in the bowl of sweets than the world's problems. Kashmir then asked Murakin if Jin would train in La Rosa for a year before returning. He looked at the dragon with a mixture of concern and hope. Murakin replied in the affirmative, saying Jin promised to come back properly strong this time, so it was something to look forward to. He popped another snack into his mouth, his confidence in his contractor unshakable. Kashmir said he finally felt at ease. A year was a long time, but if it meant Jin could survive the coming storms, it was a price worth paying. Gilly sat across from Murakin, her eyes sharp and observant. The three of them sat quietly for a while, the only sound being the ticking clock and Murakin crunching, until Gilly broke the silence, saying it was too early to relax. She did not believe in the luxury of comfort while enemies still breathed. Even Siren, who was said to defy the laws of the world, would have fallen before a great power if he had been alone. The mention of Jin's father, a man like a demigod, brought a somber weight to the room. She concluded that they also needed to prepare as much as possible. Murakin's face turned serious, the playful glint in his eyes replaced by the shadows of a long, bloody history. The thought crossed his mind that Timar had fallen the same way. The memory of his former contractor's end was a wound that never truly healed. He put down the tray and agreed she was right. In a rare moment of frustration, he touched the back of his head and said they could not go through that again, asking what they were supposed to do. With a serious expression, Gilly stated that Murakin must find a way to recover his former strength. He was currently a shadow of his old self, and they needed every bit of dragon power possible rather than simply waiting for Jin to grow. While the boy was their hope, he could not be their sole defense. Kashmir then mentioned that Kazun and Julian were moving with him, suggesting the seven-colored bird investigate clues regarding Julian's guardian dragon. They needed to utilize every available intelligence network. Kashmir turned to Gilly, noting that her contractor, Inya, wished to learn magic from Berries. He asked if this was acceptable, as Inya was relentlessly pursuing Berries to teach her. It was an obsession bordering on the absurd. She continuously stalked Berries through the halls, appearing whenever the woman turned a corner. Berries was annoyed by this behavior, her patience wearing thin as she sought solitude, while Inya insisted on being taught. Refusing to take no for an answer, Inya persisted even though Berries could no longer use magic after her injury. The flow of mana in Berries' veins was broken, a source of great personal grief, yet her knowledge and brilliant mind remained as valuable as raw power. Gilly approved the request without hesitation, realizing she could not shelter Inya forever, and that the girl needed to find her own path. Inya's continuous efforts finally worked. Her sheer persistence was a force even a veteran could not withstand. Berries eventually gave up after seeing the girl's pitiful face, and agreed to teach her. Gilly noted it would be good for Inya to have a teacher, and stated that until Jin returns, each of them must do their best while waiting. It was a pact of patience and preparation. Time flew by as days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Kashmir searched for Julian's guardian dragon, while guiding Kazun and Julian across vast distances. Meanwhile, Inya worked hard to learn magic, her dedication never wavering even when lessons became grueling. After 6 months had passed, rumors began to spread that the youngest Runcandle had died. The news moved like wildfire, fueled by the silence from Jin's camp. Inside the Runcandle family, the beast-man Pung appeared with his fellow clansmen to present Jin's sword. The small, rabbit-like creature looked insignificant in the grand, oppressive halls of the villa. Joshua looked at Pung with a grim expression while the beast-man trembled in fear. The eldest brother radiated an aura of immense power and dark ambition that made the air feel heavy. With a broken voice, Pung claimed the sword was found at a desert ruin. He held the weapon with shaking hands, his long ears drooping, certain he had seen it on a wanted poster. Joshua understood the implications, but could do nothing regarding the political fallout of a dead heir candidate. After the Vice Lord, Bradamanti, confirmed the sword, Joshua sent the Golden Tongue tribe away with a massive reward and an escort. 2 carriages full of gold followed them silently as they left. Peng's fear was quickly replaced by overwhelming greed. Upon reaching home, he calculated the wealth and excitement. He had never seen such riches, and couldn't hold back his joy at the hoard fit for a king. With sparkling eyes, he calculated that his descendants would have enough fish to eat for their entire lives. It was a simple dream realized through the supposed death of a hero. John and Dark Flame also looked at the gold in excitement. The little blue minion-like creature jumped up and down, his water tail splashing. They celebrated their new wealth together, dancing around the carriages, unconcerned with the tragedy their discovery signaled to the world. 6 months after Jin disappeared, the death of the young Runcandle candidate was officially announced. The declaration was made with the grim solemnity of the clan, and the public could not hide their shock. A star that burned brightly had seemingly been extinguished in the sands of a desert ruin. Dante, unaware that Jin was actually alive, was furious. He felt a burning, agonizing rage rather than mere sadness. He trained non-stop every day until his body collapsed, pushing past exhaustion while replaying his failure to be strong enough. He trained so hard that his hands began to bleed. Every drop on his sword was a testament to his grief and his desperation over his past weakness. Elsewhere, the impact was handled differently. Baru Zippel had his memories completely controlled by his family, moving like a puppet. Every trace of his friendship and shared history with Jin was scrubbed away by cruel magic. He lived in a world of manufactured truth, unaware of the loss the world was mourning. On the other hand, in La Rosa, Jin was training for what was to come. He was far from dead, though the world believed otherwise. The air in this hidden realm was charged with ancient power as he prepared for future dangers, training hard under the guidance of the Plutonians.